And then another thing you talked about with the brand deal was like you got paid way less than you normally would have. Just kind of something a little along the same lines, but separate beginner photographers. And when you're just starting, not necessarily a brand deal, but where do you land on with free work when you're starting?
Yeah. So this is a pretty heated topic for me. I do get a little annoyed when I see photographers working for like less than they should. Free work has its place. It will always have its place. You need to be able to build your portfolio. You need to be able to find work, and you need to be able to show people stuff that you've done in the past. But I don't think it's necessary. So for instance, I think I've shot one wedding on my own. Any other weddings that I've done have been through Union 11. I don't own the copyrights to those photos with Union 11 because they're the employer, it's their client, which means I can't show those photos to a client of mine. I can't post them on any social media. I can't use them to market. Basically, I have to point a client in the direction of Union 11 and say, hey, I've worked for these guys, hire me. And I think that you can definitely do that. I think having a resume works just as well as having a portfolio. You don't need to do free work in order to find work. You can work for other companies that will put the work in your hands for you. But I do think it's important to be able to do free work in order to build your portfolio. I just dislike it when people don't charge enough, or I dislike it when people don't value photography enough to pay good money for it, especially for things like weddings, because this is your like one chance. You don't reshoot an entire wedding, So if you're hiring a photographer that's charging you $600, you're going to get shitty photos and it's going to suck because it's your wedding day and you don't want crappy photos on your wedding day, So yeah, I think it does have its place. I think like with weddings, I think you should start with family and friends. I think if you have like a family member who's getting married, offer to take photos at their wedding. And if you know somebody who's not having like a big wedding, even better. If it's maybe their second or third wedding, great, because they probably don't care about it as much. It gives you a little bit more lenience to mess up and whatever else. I think that portraiture is really easy to do free work for because, like I said, you just DM some people and say, hey, I want to take some photos of you. I think that if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want you to shoot a wedding. I want you to shoot this. I want you to shoot this. I'm not going to pay you. Unless it's like Kylie Jenner or you have some like crazy amount of exposure, something that's like measurable. Why? Unless it's, of course, a friend. So I guess my example kind of goes more to like, if somebody finds you on Kijiji or something, say you have a Kijiji ad up, somebody finds you on Kijiji, they say, hey, I want you to shoot this. I'm not going to pay you. Why? Why would you do that? Your point of putting an ad up on Kijiji is to get paid, right? So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I think it's necessary, but I think you should only do it for a very short amount of time before you start charging. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a small amount, I think you should charge because as soon as you shoot your first wedding, now you have a portfolio, at least the beginnings of one. So you might not be charging, $5,000 for wedding photography, which is, it's high, but not really that high because I know photographers that charge $10,000. But you could charge $500. You've already done one. Why give the second away for free? $500 is still an amazing deal, especially if you know your market. And I think that's really important too, is knowing your market, knowing your competition, and bringing something to the table that other people don't. But in terms of free work, yeah, do it once maybe, and after that, start charging.
So a way I want to take with the working for free conversation is my first guest says what he does for his Instagram is he does photo shoots, mm-hmm. and he'll DM different photographers, but he's a student, like he can't afford to really pay anything. So he'll offer he'll offer exposure, like just crediting, of course. And he'll also say like, I'll take you like a networking event with me because he's really well connected and stuff, and like introduce you to people. And I got a DM about that one from a buddy of mine. So it wasn't like it was a random person. Like he's like, hey, I'm a photographer. This really didn't sit well with me because I don't think you should ever do free work. Like, it takes time to do this. I totally get that, and I agree. But it's just a matter of if you have like not really a portfolio. Like, he'll usually DM people with like just starting or like students and stuff to try and get people to help him get content for his Instagram. And like, where does that kind of resonate? Like, where does that hit with you? And like, I won't be offended either way. Like, I'm genuinely curious.
No, yeah. It's a good conversation to have. I think that if you're just starting out, sure, take some photos for free. If you think that going to this networking event is worth it to you, do it. Whoever it is that's asking these amateur photographers to do the photos, he or she has to be okay with not getting great photos.
Yeah. And that's what he said too. He's like, I'm not looking for a great photo. He's like, I basically just need someone to hold the camera and like take up like nothing crazy. So it's not like he's looking for like a crazy edited thing. Or like, he doesn't even, a big thing too is he said, don't even like, I know how much work is, like, don't edit it. Like, don't have to worry about it. I know that's for some photographers, like, they want, if they're getting credit, to like be their edit.
Yeah. But I fundamentally disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think that if you're a photographer who gives away the raw photos, you're giving away an unfinished product. It's just going to hurt you in the long run because it is your work, you know? I would much rather, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I want you to take this photo. If I was doing it for free, I would want to kill it and then charge them after they go, holy shit, this is an amazing photo. Yeah. I want you to work for me. I would want to charge them after. So I think spec work has its place. If you're getting amateur photographers to work for you, then you're going to get crappy photos. I fundamentally disagree with giving away raw photos, though.
It makes sense, though. Like, I totally get it. Because if like you want it to accurately represent your work.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing too, I mean, I can only speak to wedding photography, but if a wedding client says, hey, can I have all the photos from the day? They're getting 10,000 photos and it's going to be way too overwhelming for them. Literally every time they'll take one look at how many photos there are and then they'll go, maybe I'll do this later. And then they never do it. So there's no point, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing that people don't realize is how many photos you take over the course of a shoot. Like, I'm by no means a professional photographer, but I've done some stuff for work where I would literally shoot for an hour and I got 500-600 pictures.
Yeah, totally.
And people are like, why are you taking so many? I mean, that's just what you have to do.
Yeah,
like,
you got to get the best one to turn out, right?
I just don't think people understand how many times you click that button.
Tons.
Like, not like just click the button. It's not like just a shutter, basically. Like, I know there's a lot more that goes into it than just that.